Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Ask the Experts. Today, we've got a really exciting person to have with us, film director and producer Kieran, who is CEO and founder of Image Nova. We're just going to kick things off by showing you a quick show reel from Image Nova, just to give you a bit of an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, hello. So today's session, like I said, is with Kieran from Image Nova, and I'm just going to bring him in. So welcome, Kieran.
Hey, how's it going, Nick? You good?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Cool. Yeah, good, thanks. I mean, I'm just waiting to go out and enjoy the sun and have a barbecue, basically. But
yeah, I think everyone is.
Yeah, looking forward to chatting to you guys today. So yeah, thanks for getting us involved.
Definitely, no problem. And thanks for joining us.
Cool.
Do you want to start just by telling us briefly about what you do at Image Nova?
Sure, yeah. So Image Nova is a film production company. We do documentaries and promotional videos, and I guess as we're speaking right now, our goal was always to move into feature films and television. So, we've been doing a variety of lots of different work, including online content, documentaries across the past 6 or 7 years now, but we're starting to move into the TV space, and we just had our first commission from the BBC. It was a short 5-minute documentary for CBBC, so that was our first piece that's just went out this year, essentially. So you've kind of caught us an interesting transition as we kind of move into TV. But that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. No, it sounds really exciting, and this is something that interests me as well because I studied film, and I know my colleague Victoria did as well. So it's great to have you here. So thanks for joining us.
A pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, happy to chat about how it all kind of kicked off, because obviously I went to uni in Leicester as well, but yeah, happy to go through your questions. And
yeah, definitely. I think it's a really good thing to kind of start by defining some of the things that you do, because I guess a lot of these things are mysterious to a lot of people. Roles within the film industry, you hear thrown around things like directors and producers. And this is like where you started your career. So do you want to maybe help us understand a bit more about what directing and producing is about?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess, the one thing to, start off with is that there's so many different roles on a film set. And that's the great thing about wanting to work in film, because depending on your interest and depending on your passions, you can specialize in an area that you want to specialize in. For me personally, I really enjoyed or liked the idea of getting a script and pulling a talented team of people together and oversteering or overhearing the creative steer of the whole project, really leading that. And I guess that's naturally a directing role. A producer is all encompassing. I mean, the producer also, like the director, sometimes the producer's on board before the director, and often that's the case. The producer brings the finances together for the project. They've got the clients on board, depending on whether you're in the more of the film world in terms of narrative film, like something like your Harry Potter film, or something like a corporate video or a documentary or a promotional video. These two roles kind of go hand in hand, especially when you're setting up your own company, which is what I did, with my colleague, and we set that up. So naturally, those roles just come to you quite well.
Yeah, and just talking about suppose, setting up your own company, how did you transition from kind of starting out freelance, doing directing and producing, and then going into creating your own company? What made you want to do that, and how did it end up coming out?
Yeah, well, I guess I was still at uni at that point, and I knew I had this interest. And at that point, my dad had this like Canon 60D, which I kind of just nicked and went out and just did like restaurant videos and things like that, right? And a whole manner of like little short films that I did with my mates and all that kind of thing, just to get started and to get going. And I made connections within the city, Phoenix Cinema around there, the Cultural Quarter, Curve Theatre, kind of off my own back, and I kind of got to know the local community. And I met my colleague, and he had a production company at that time, and he was doing the odd jobs here and there. We started making short films together, worked really well together. And then all of a sudden one day, through this whole process, I was doing lots of experience on lots of different sets, whether it be for like ITV News Central, or if there was a independent film being made in Leicester, I just made it my priority just to get on these sets and get networking and doing jobs for free and all this kind of stuff, just pulling together anything I could. And then we kind of got a big break when a cameraman that I knew in the BBC called me, and he said, "We've got these interviews." He goes, "Hey, I know you're doing these interviews now. I know you're doing filmmaking." We're like, "Yeah, we can do it." And it was a bit of a white lie saying that, "Hey, yeah, sure, we've done it before and we can do anything that's needed." He's like, "All right, there's these interviews coming up in London, and they're with Danny Boyle, who directed Slumdog Millionaire, and Andrew Lloyd Webber." And that was like, shit, like, I'm in my room, 18, 19-year-old or whatever. And it was a big break to kind of go down and film these interviews. And since then, we've been building on slowly and yet surely, project after project after project, working with local clients, but then kind of expanding our reach out in towards the industry that we want to work in, which is the film industry. So working with clients like Sony and Fuji and people like that, and that's been a real dream. I mean, one of the cool things that when we started off was working with a local client called Cook Optics, and they manufacture the cinema lenses that go on the front of these cameras. And they're an Oscar-winning company, and they're based in Leicester, and they're based in Thermiston. They've been going for 100 years, but their lenses have been used on every film from 12 Years a Slave to Harry Potter to The Wizard of Oz. I mean, Charlie Chaplin, you name it. So anyway, it might come up later, but we've created content for them, which has been a dream.
That's incredible. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. Yeah, based in Leicester.
We touched on this just a little bit before we started the stream, about studying and what you were doing before you started Image Nova. And you mentioned you're at university. What are your qualifications in terms of film and TV?
So in terms of films and TV, like, it's difficult to basically put qualifications on board, just because you don't necessarily need qualifications in film and TV to get into film and TV. You need the experience, and that's what's the interesting thing about this industry. Because I mean, I got my A-levels and I went to uni and I spent 3 years at uni, but looking back on it now, I'm not sure if I would have gone to uni. I would have just basically started getting my experience going straight out of college, or in college, just on film sets, working with local film companies, doing all these kinds of things, working for free. And in the space of a year or two, you'd hopefully be employed by them, or be getting odd jobs from various different sources, really kind of getting your foot out there in the industry that you want to work in. And obviously in this case, it's the film industry.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's there's no real set route. Everyone has a kind of different experience of this, really. And I think you've kind of answered the question about whether you need a degree to go in the film industry. I think that's kind of subjective, isn't it? I think one of the things as well, like you say, is like meeting people, and networking is obviously a really key thing, and that's something you can get from studying. I guess, like, you can meet people you want to work with and things like that.
Yeah, it's true. And also, like, if you're going to get a job on the film set, you're never going to get a job with no experience as being one of the head of departments, or as a cinematographer or director or anything like that. You're always going to go in as a runner, as a production assistant. And they're relatively, if you're hardworking and you've got a really good attitude, you'll get on the sets. It's not as hard to get on, and if you start build it naturally, that forms a good baseline in which to build the rest of your career. But I guess what I'm talking about here throughout this chat is a bit of a cross between the film industry and essentially what I do, which is creating content for the film industry and corporate clients as well. So it's a bit of a thin line, but I've had a bit of experience in both, hence why I'll just happy to just chat through.
Yeah, definitely. So on that kind of topic, outside of formal education and things like that, what skills do you think is needed really to do well in this industry?
Well, I think I guess it's kind of key to note that they're really long hours sometimes. Whether that be if you're working on deadlines for certain projects, and the thing that really kind of gets you through is a hard-working ethic and being able just to push on. Ideally, the work is something that you'd want to do and something that you're really, really going towards, in which case it doesn't seem like that much of a chore. But I mean, hey, everyone has lots of deadlines, whether you're working for a local indie or even Pixar. Everyone's got their same graph that they've got to put in, and essentially you just need to be able to carry on at times that other people won't and still come up smiling the next day.
Yeah, that's it. I think that comes from, like you say, your passion for the job, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Alongside skills, you definitely need to have a passion for the job, and that'll generally get you through it.
Yeah. So in terms of your work experience, did you get much experience in the industry before you started your study at university, or was that something that came afterwards?
It actually came whilst at university, because whilst at university I was kind of, as I say, I had my dad's camera, and I was doing these kind of videos on the side and developing a small portfolio, because that's like key. You need to have a good website, good portfolio, just to say to all these agencies out there or anyone that might hire you, this is who I am, these are the things that I've edited before, and hey, we could smash it. So the quicker you start building that portfolio, and the better, basically. So I was doing that, and in a sense I was building my own kind of experience. And there was an independent feature film being shot in Leicester whilst I was at uni, and the producer for that film contacted the uni saying, are there any runners on board, or does anyone want to help out as a production assistant? And this is insane, like off a film course at uni, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 students or what have you, I think about 2 or 3 actually said they'd be up for being a production assistant on this feature film. And the cinematographer he's shot Harry Potter and everything, right? And you've got this kind of amazing opportunity to work on it. And the fact that got such low kickback and reception was quite interesting. So it's amazing how many people just don't take the opportunities, even if they're being literally shoved in their faces. It's quite crazy. So you just you're basically just hunting for any kind of experience that you've got. And so that's what I was doing. I mean, the benefit to me was that I knew what I wanted to do young. So I could start trying to get experience in that industry young, where there's lots of people, like I know people 20s, 30s, 40s even, that just still don't know what they want to do, and it's hard. And you basically just gotta, and what I did at the start was basically saying, if I had a dream job, what would it be? And essentially just start working towards that in any way, shape or form. The goal might seem quite big and unattainable, but essentially you break it down into small baby steps. You don't build a film production company and start working with big corporate clients just like that. You need to, as I did, basically pick up someone's camera, or just save up to buy your first camera by working part-time. I mean, I was working part-time at the Phoenix Cinema in Leicester for about 2.5 years as an usher, ripping tickets, but that was something I loved, and it was great because I was in this whole, I guess, this whole community of film lovers, which was just a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think this has kind of covered what you've talked about already, but in terms of advice to people getting started in the industry, I suppose what you've said so far is, being proactive, going out there, getting experience where you can, networking, taking those opportunities. Is there anything else that you can think of that you would give to people maybe who started out in a similar position to you and want to try and get there?
Yeah, I'd say start developing your own portfolio. You see lots of freelance editors, freelance directors online. You can literally just do a type for it on Google, and everyone has their own website with their own work on it. You need to essentially create your own portfolio, and you need to create a website with your work on it. And then obviously that comes hand in hand with actually producing some work and actually shooting. Everyone says this, but it is crazy. If you can't afford a camera, there's so much you can do just with free editing software on your phone. If I'm looking out for people that are applying for positions at our company, even if the quality of the footage isn't that good, if I'm recruiting for an editor, I'd want to know that the editing is great, even if they're editing with a mobile phone footage. So even if I got a request through from a student at 16 or something like that, saying, hey, I've knocked a few videos together, really keen to do free work experience with you. Let me just sit in the office and just shadow for a month. That's a good approach. If you went out and you spoke to a lot of these companies and saying, we're willing to do free work, and show your talent in that email and just bash the phone and bash the emails. If you try 100, you're going to get 1 or 2. And that's all you need to get started.
Yeah, solid advice there. Yeah. Another thing, kind of more practical thing about the job, you mentioned that it can be long hours. Do you have a set sort of shift that you normally work in a day, or is it all over?
Oh, I mean, like when you start, it's pretty much just slave labor. I mean, there's like no time off. I mean, it's like, obviously the past few years, once you get more used to it and get a routine going, you have your 10 till 6, which is just basically the hours that we work, But, if you've got a deadline for a client next week and, they're the ones paying the bills, you've got to put in those evenings, you've got to put in a weekend just to basically make ends meet. The ideal situation is to be at a stable point where you don't have to do that and you manage your own workload. But essentially, if you're out there and you're a freelancer, you're going to want to get every opportunity you can and work with every client you can. So the hours you work, I guess, in a nutshell, are up to you, and you'll be as successful as you will be based on how you manage your time and your hours.
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to a lot of the time, like knowing when it's important for you to work extensive hours. If you think it's going to benefit you in the long run, then yeah, I guess you got to take that chance sometimes, haven't you?
Sure, yeah, and it's a mixture of investing time in your projects that you're working on, and also investing in time. Investing in time in projects that may be more artistic or stimulate creativity, things that add to your portfolio. Because sometimes the things that you're working on aren't necessarily things that you want to put on your portfolio, but things that do pay the bills. Yeah. And the balance, setting up our own company over the past few years was finding really cool things that we wanted to put on our portfolio, like things that you've put in your show that you showed in our show reel at the start there. That's a variety of content that's been produced over a matter of years. So it's tough for someone starting out to say, this is my show reel,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give people maybe a bit of an insight into the job. I know we talked about this question earlier. It's always hard when you're put on the spot a little bit to come up with something about the job that might surprise people. I mean, one thing you touched on earlier was the kind of the big break that you mentioned with the BBC. I mean, that must have been really cool. Like, what do you want to tell us a bit more about what happened with that job? Like, how did it go when you actually executed it?
Yeah, with the BBC.
Like the Danny Boyle interviews and things like that.
Oh, right, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I guess, one thing that might surprise people is the fact that, we've had some amazing experiences over the years, and, we've, interviews is definitely one of them. We've met some really cool people, and we've been to some amazing places. And if you have a really good relationship with your client and you work in a kind of sector that you want to work in, so for example, Cook Optics, we negotiated to go out to Pixar animation studios in America last year. We were one of the only external production companies in the world that have actually gone and filmed there, and that was done through negotiating or firstly producing an online channel in which we interview cinematographers that got big enough to the fact that we were at a festival, and the cinematographer of The Incredibles and the latest, one of the new ones, Onward, was speaking to them, and they said, "Hey, we watch Cook Optics TV," and that was a point where it was like, "This is crazy!" Like, the people at Pixar kind of watch our content, and we then went to the client and basically said, "Hey, listen, we need to do a piece on Pixar because it's usually live action cinematographers that we speak to, and there's this whole world out there of animators where you can, and they craft the film in a similar way to how a normal cinematographer would on a film set. They still use lighting, they still use camera work and all that kind of thing." So I guess that was a surprising thing. That might be a surprising thing for people to know, is that you can essentially create your own opportunities within your freelance or your freelance world based on certain things. And that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that must have been amazing. It must be really nice when you find like people and like that who've been watching your stuff. It just be like, wow, yeah, if you had no idea about it, it's
kid in a candy store. I mean, that was insane. Yeah, I can probably attach the link to this. We got an article that came out in the news coverage that basically just shows what it was like there and stuff. But yeah, I mean,
that'd be great. Yeah,
it's Pixar.
I'll try and drop the link in the comments if we get hold of it.
Cool.
So one of the big things people might have their own idea of in the film industry is what they can expect to earn. Obviously, this is at your discretion, but like, can you give people a bit of an idea of what they might be able to expect doing a job at your level in terms of earnings?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I can give you a good idea in terms of rates and what people charge. If you were to basically go to a company and say, "Hey, I am an editor and I will charge X amount per day," and that rate can charge from someone with a portfolio, and someone that is trusted could range from anywhere between 200 to 350, £300 per day, and I guess the sky's the limit based on, if you just edited the Nike commercial, you might be able to get away with charging £1,000 a day or £2,000 a day, depending on your client. Obviously, the ideal situation is the fact that you build yourself up to the point where you can start charging that kind of money with the right clients. And that's what you're aiming for, really. But at the start, you're going to be on the lower end of that for sure, because you won't have the experience, and people are like, why am I paying you £200 a day? You've not got any experience whatsoever. But that's for a good editor.
Yeah, I guess you have to earn your reputation first.
Yeah, and every craft in the industry, I mean, everyone that works on a project in the film industry, on a big film, is essentially freelance. They're all being employed by the company for that specific project, and then they go and they've got to find their new job. So you go from project to project, which people might not like because it's not necessarily. It is stable when you've got a solid base of clients that keep coming back to you for work. And it's really rewarding and really freeing, but getting into that and building that takes a bit of time.
Definitely. Well, it seems like you're really passionate about what you do, and I think that's obviously important. But what would you say is one of the most rewarding parts of what you do?
I guess a lot of the stories that we tell are quite important, either interests that we have, interests that we think are important for the world, but also just really cool things like going to Pixar and meeting Danny Boyle. I mean, that's another cool thing. It's the people that we meet and interview and produce content with are like at the top of their field in the film industry, and that's a dream for me. And likewise with the CBBC thing, we're showing and basically raising awareness about an important issue, which is sustainable fashion. We're in that little small documentary, we're focusing on a sustainable activist, climate activist, who's basically talking about fashion solutions, or solutions to sustainable fashion. How do our clothes get to the UK? And she talks about working with thrift stores and all that kind of thing. And she's trying to inspire a whole new young generation. So it's great to also be a part of that and see if there's any change that we can bring.
Definitely. There must be a lot of different things to choose from when it comes to benefits of the job. I think I'm sold on a career now.
Great, cool. Well, glad I could be a hand, and hope you found some of that interesting at least.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, is there anything else you want to add just before we wrap things up? I'm going to drop the links to Image Nova in the comments for anyone that's interested in finding out more, and also a link to the courses that we offer in video and photography at Leicester College that can help you learn a bit more about different roles and different skills needed in the film and photography industries as well. But and
Yeah.
I'll also drop a link to the latest work you did with the BBC in the My Life series. But yeah, is there anything else you wanna add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess when I was at uni, I mean, my course was quite theoretical, but I know there's lots of courses now, especially even at college, that 7-8 years on from when I was at uni, that focus on the practical elements of filmmaking now. And if there's opportunities to build your portfolio whilst at college or whilst at uni, I mean, that's your ideal situation, really, if you want to kind of get into a creative sector. So I think things have changed in some ways, and I think if you're savvy with just getting on board with some of these things, like getting a portfolio and building the connection now, then you'll save a lot of work later down the line.
Definitely, definitely. A lot of good advice there. So hopefully that's been helpful to everyone who's tuned in. And thanks again, Kieran, for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's been
All
nice
right.
talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Nick. Yeah, take care.
No worries. Thanks.
Bye bye.